the bottom will make it go? Yeah, I see it. Okay, we're good.
All right, Nancy, whenever you're ready.
Whenever I'm ready. You want to say anything, Todd? He's going to go.
Just go.
I'm going.
Stand at the podium and do it.
One. Hit it.
A peanut gallery over here.
Yep.
All right, I'm Deacon Nancy from St. Mark's, but mostly I am at the Brevard County Jail. It's an interesting place. I'd like to start off with a video that was supposed to be shown during the convention that ended up being online. Only everything went quicker at the convention than they thought it would, so it never was shown. And not all the Episcopal people are at the convention. It's, you have your delegates and your clergy, and even if they'd shown it, it wouldn't have been everybody, or it wouldn't have been a huge number. But they let me have a copy of the video that they made because they were making videos from several deacons that are doing work in the world. So I'm going to show you the video. That's going to be the first thing I would like to do. Hi, I'm Deacon Nancy Oliver. I serve at St. Mark's in Cocoa. I also have a business where I help people with disabilities and felonies get jobs. But my main ministry is I'm in the jail 40 hours a week in the Brevard County Jail. Brevard County Jail pre-COVID had 1,800 inmates on any given day. 250 to 300 of these inmates are women, and that's been a pretty stable number pre and post-COVID. I minister to the women in the Brevard County Jail by teaching Bible studies, organizing volunteers to come in and teach Bible studies so that we can have classes in each housing unit at least 3 times a week. There's a lot going on in a jail that people aren't really aware of. When you're very small and you're watching TV and somebody does something bad, a child will ask, well, what's going to happen to that person? Well, they're going to jail. Where's jail? I don't know. They're going to jail. When you get older, sometimes your mindset doesn't change beyond that. Your mindset is, those people are going to jail, they're bad. Where's jail? I don't know. We don't know where they are, we don't know what's happening with them. Some of the people that go to jail aren't bad, they're mostly poor, or they've made some poor choices, especially as it relates to drugs, but some people are in jail for 6 months and longer for driving on a suspended license. They were suspended because they couldn't afford the car insurance. Well, they certainly can't afford the bond. So when they get out, they've been evicted from their apartment. They get out, they don't have any extra clothes, they don't have any household items, they don't have anywhere to go. So as a chaplain in the jail, I'm helping them to connect with programs where they do have someplace to go. My worst day in jail was this past September 17th. I came in, I had a voicemail, I picked up the voicemail, and it was a chaplain from Arnold Palmer Hospital. I called him back and he said the doctor wanted to speak to one of our inmates because his child was in the hospital not doing well. And we were ready to hang up and I hadn't got any other information. I said, wait a minute, how old is the child? What's the child's name? And that's when I found out that the child was 7 years old and her name was Namaya. So I went and got the inmate and made the arrangements, which is some hoop jumping, but made the arrangements for him to get to the phone so I could call the chaplain who handed the phone to the doctor. He didn't say anything for the entire time and then stood up and dropped the phone, and I picked it up like, is anybody there? He walked out of the room, which you never do in a jail, and a deputy followed him, and I talked to the doctor who said that he had just informed this inmate that his daughter was going to be disconnected from life support that very day. They wanted to arrange a Zoom meeting so he could say his goodbyes, so I arranged for a computer to be brought over so we could do the Zoom meeting. He was talking to his daughter and acting as if maybe she would get better, and I wanted to make sure he knew, and so I'm saying to him, but you know, the doctor said there's no brain activity. And he turned to me and he said, but in Matthew, Jesus went to a little girl who was already dead, and he just told her to get up, and she did. And he turns back to the screen and he goes, Tabitha, Tabitha, get up, little girl. I was weeping. We visited with her for quite a while. And that night they arranged another Zoom visit so he could be present when she was disconnected from life support. And I sat with him and watched him and watched his little girl die. I held his hand, I recited the Lord's Prayer, I recited the 23rd Psalm, I said whatever words the Holy Spirit gave me. I had a deputy standing behind me that when we were finished and we walked around the rec yard for a few minutes to help him to compose himself, and he went back into the cell, the deputy said, I got to go call my kids. And I struggled a bit too. Doing ministry in the jail is bringing the love and the good news of Jesus to people who are on the dirt floor basement of their soul. But I serve in the Brevard County Jail, and I know that's right where God wants me. So, there's a lot going on in jails. There's a lot going on in the Brevard County Jail. We have had kind of a rough month in the Brevard County Jail. On Maundy Thursday, of all days, and because I'm in an Episcopal church, you'll get this. On Maundy Thursday, at the instruction of the new administration, because we have a new chief and new majors that came in, like last fall, at the instruction of the new administration, they took everybody's Bibles away. They took all books and all Bibles out of the jail. Well, a number of pastors in Brevard County contacted Wayne Ivey. This is not a very good political move when you run on God, guns, and country and you take God out of the jail. So he came up with, well, we had to get all the Bibles out because they were, people were smuggling things in the Bibles. I've never heard of it, but because there was an uproar about they took the Bibles away, he told, it was put on this, they have a kiosk system, it's tablets. There's like 9 tablets in a pod with like 40 people, but you can get your emails, from your family. You can get mail, like the people can send pictures somewhere, or they get letters and then they scan it and you can read it on there. You don't get the paper. I understand that because people were sending in letters soaked in drugs. Then you just eat the letter and you're getting high and whatever. But you can read your letters. You can order your commissary because if you want to order extra food and stuff, it's like a humongous markup. Ramen noodles are like 25 cents out. Thing of ramen noodles like 25 cents at the grocery store. They're like $2 a pack in the jail. But they sent a message on the kiosk. So now that we've gotten all of the contraband out, you can order a new Bible. Well, people had their Bibles for a long time, many of them, and they had all these, their notes, their everything from Bible classes, but now we have to issue everybody a new Bible. We can't keep up with the requests. We're answering requests, and they're coming in at the bottom as fast, and this has been going on since Easter week, since Holy Week. It's still overwhelming. I haven't been able to do as much counseling because I'm very busy trying to get Bibles out to everybody. So it's been a horrific time. Plus, our office, the whole time for the past 5 years that I've been at the jail, has been downstairs on the 400 hall near the staff dining where deputies can come in and talk to us whenever they want to. And we have formed some relationships with deputies. We've done some marriage counseling with deputies or some, I'm struggling and I didn't even want to go back into 500 today. It's too crazy down there. And we talk to them and comfort them. Well, now they've moved our office upstairs on a hallway that's on the way to the workout room, but people go there when they get off. Shifts are from 6 in the morning to 6 at night, and we generally work like 8 to 5, something like that. So when they're going to the workout room, we're not in our office. So we have been kind of moved. So I have been in complete chaos since the middle of April. There's still boxes piled up in my current office. Certain things are missing. We have to keep calling Gideons and anybody else who will send us donated Bibles. So we've got shipments of Bibles coming in. We've got Bibles in stacks that are going out to people in pods. It's been interesting. But there is a good reason to be in the jail. We have many people who have come to find Jesus in jail, and that has stuck. We have other people who find Jesus in jail, but they leave him in jail, and they get out, and they have to come back to find Jesus again. Happens all the time. If you leave Jesus in jail, you're going to have to come back to find him, so take him with you. But they're in a really difficult, horrible position, and having someone to give them the hope of Jesus is an important thing. So that's why I do what I do. So, hello. So I just think it's an important ministry that I have. I'm trying to think what else I might be able to share with you. We do have a healing program that's put on by the American Bible Society. I mean, they put it together. And they actually started it because of all of the turmoil in Africa and people coming in and the rape and the pillaging and the losing your home and everything else. And so they had this healing program to kind of help people through the trauma. Well, most of the people who are in jail have had trauma. We had a guy tell us that when he was 5 years old, his mother gave him to her drug dealer, and he was with the drug dealer for like 3 months when he was like 5. So that kind of trauma, you don't just get better, that's just trauma. And so when we have a healing class, the healing class talks about why do bad things happen to good people, what's going on. The healing class talks about your relationship with God, it talks about forgiveness, it talks about the guilt that we carry, and how do we bring our pain to the cross? How do you do that? How do you leave it there and not pull it back again? So we have this healing program. It's like 6 4-hour sessions, and you need a little space in between because there's processing, and you're pulling off scabs and digging into hard places. So you need to let people have some time. But we give them some tools on how to deal with it when you're feeling overwhelmed with the past traumas. What are some tools you can use to pull yourself back into present moment and not live in that trauma? So that's a program. In fact, the pictures in that video that we just showed, I was teaching a healing class. Unfortunately, this isn't widely known, but one of the women in those pictures got out of the jail and within 2 weeks died of a drug overdose. She had a 7-year-old daughter that was living with a friend of hers in Orlando, and she was hopeful to get back out and get with her daughter. And I wonder what happened to her daughter. Is her daughter's going to live with this friend in Orlando forever? Who's going to take that kid? But I read this week that last year there were 100,000 deaths due to overdoses in this country. 100,000 young people died. Now, I know we had 1 million people die from COVID, and some of them were young, but many of them had other situations and were older people. We're losing 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, a whole hunk of people that are under 30. We're losing a generation. So we need to do something about the drug problem in this country because it's not getting any better. In fact, the statistics I was reading, and I didn't memorize the statistics, but we are much higher this year between January and April when the statistics were done with drug overdoses and the drug infiltrations than we were at the same period ever in the history. So it's not getting better. And as I talked to you before, last time I was here, we talked an awful lot about the fact that there are people in the jail that really shouldn't be in jail. They're dementia or mental health issues. And that's still an issue. I will say that the beginning of April, I went and spoke to Tyler Sirois. He's the state representative in Merritt Island. I went and spoke to him, and at Christmas time, I think it was like 3 days before Christmas, I went and spoke to Randy Fink in Melbourne. It's not always easy, but because they're politicians, they do listen to you, but you wonder, where's this going? Is this going to go anywhere? The good news is that Tyler, whose last name I could spell but I never pronounce it correctly, he does work with the Public Defender's Office, and he is well aware of the mental health issues, and that seems to be one of the things that he's most interested in. So I told him we need legislation. We've got to do something, and I have ideas like, if somebody's getting a check every month because they have intellectual disability, their IQ is way low, or they have schizophrenia, and they're getting a check, it's in a system, a government system. One branch of the government says this person is mentally challenged or mentally ill. If you go out and do something that doesn't make any sense, we've got a guy in the jail that one day went in somebody's backyard. They didn't know him. He went into their backyard, got their propane tank, carried it out to the front to the neighbor's driveway and let all the propane out. He got arrested and he was in jail for like 9 months. He's schizophrenic. The voices in his head said, you've got to get rid of the propane. He doesn't need to be in jail. He needs to be in a hospital where they can, adjust his meds, keep track of him, give him some help, because being in an isolated cell is not helping him. So, anybody have any questions or comments? Because I'm open to answering questions. Don't everybody ask at once. I'll get to it in a minute. The problem is that the video's right. When you're a little kid and you see something on TV, and it's like, on the news or something, well, where's that guy? He's going to jail. Well, where's jail? I don't know. How long are you going to be there? I don't know. We don't know anything about jail. You don't really know enough to ask a question. It'd be like somebody asking me, do you have any questions about calculus? It's like, yeah, I don't have a question about it. I don't know anything about it, and I'm not doing it. And so if you don't have much more knowledge than the average American about jail, you don't even know how to ask the question. I'm going to tell you that it is not Sheriff Wayne Ivy's fault that we have these problems in the jail, because it's a legislative problem. People are arrested when they do something, and we don't have a system for people beyond, this is against the law, you're going to jail. And so they have care, custody, and control. But if you don't have a lot of money, you can't afford your bail. And many, many people are in jail because they're poor. People who have money are not in jail. People who have family who have money are not in jail. But if you are poor, you are going to sit in jail until you get a court date. And since COVID, before COVID it was bad. Since COVID, it's 3 times as bad. The courts were shut down for a period of time. They've never caught up. They're not even close to caught up. So, and everything is postponed. Another interesting thing about our system, which isn't really about jail, but it is about how the system works and people in jail are affected, is on TV you always see, and they go to trial, and then the lawyers get up and say smart things, and the other lawyer gets up and argues, and then they decide, and the judge listens, and the jury listens. That is super rare. We have a system based on plea bargaining and fear. The state attorney says to your attorney, which is generally going to be a public defender because nobody can afford a lawyer. The rich people can afford a lawyer, and they're not in a jail. But the state attorney says to your public defender, look, she doesn't really score for prison, but we want her to do 5 years prison time and followed by 5 years of probation. And your lawyer comes to you and says, look, they could really stick it to you. With these kind of charges, you could do 10 years in prison. You should sign for this. You should take it. And so people are signing and pleading out, plea bargaining is what they call it. They give you a plea. They tell you to do this. And then you say to your lawyer, I don't want to do that. No. See if they'll give me 10 years of probation and 1 year in jail, or 1 year in prison. And while you're waiting for this, you're sitting in jail for a year, 2 years. So you got all this time built up because you're just sitting, waiting while they're going back and forth. And yours gets filtered to the bottom because now we have all these other ones, and so we'll get to you in a minute. If you don't have anybody on the outside calling the lawyer's office and saying, hey, when are we going to do something, you might not get seen for a while. So the system is very broken. It's not only people with mental health issues, it's people that have drug issues, and so they've been arrested because of a drug issue, and they don't take it to trial and say, okay, so she had these many grams on her, but she says it was in the vehicle, but it wasn't hers, and nobody's guilty of anything, I know that, but nobody gets a chance to tell their story. Nobody gets a chance to say, well, it was in this abusive situation. He told me if I carried it to this thing, then I would be able to go shopping. Or, nobody hears the stories because we just plea bargain. And the lawyer talks to the lawyer, and then that lawyer talks to the inmate, and the inmate talks to that lawyer, and that lawyer talks to that lawyer, and they never get in front of the judge until the very end when everybody's agreed that's what you're going to do. And then the judge asks a whole list of questions. Did anybody coerce you to make this plea? Did anybody tell you you had to do this? What are you supposed to say? They say, no, good, sign this, got to go. And some people will plead guilty even when they declare at the top of their voice they're innocent. But it's like, I've already been sitting here for 12 months. I don't know how much longer I'm going to have to sit here. If I plea out and say, yeah, I'm guilty, I said, but you're giving yourself a felony. But, my kids are getting older. This is crazy. So they'll plea out and have a felony on their record because they just and perhaps it could be reduced to a misdemeanor, because the police officers do tend to overcharge. I mean, if there's this incident happened, they're going to charge you with, possession, attempt to sell. I mean, they put 6 things out there. Then the prosecutor might dismiss 3 of them and find you guilty of 2, just so they got they get a conviction on something. So the system is pretty broken. There's not a lot of justice in the justice system right now. I mean, certainly that's me, the deacon, saying that, but I have a deacon's heart, and I feel for these people because they are God's people, made in God's image, who are now addicted. That has a hold on them. They don't really have as many choices anymore, because once they went down that road, if you don't get the drugs that you want or that your body needs, you will get drug sick, and they're petrified to get drug sick. They come into the jail and they have to detox, and they get drug sick, and they lay on the floor and they shiver. They get body cramps all over their body, and if you've ever had a leg cramp and you're going, oh, well, their whole body's cramping, and they get drug sick, and so they're petrified of it. But there's also a psychological component, because now they've detoxed. It's like, good, now you're clean. Don't go out there and use again. But I'll be damned if they don't go out there and use and die of a drug overdose, because they can't use it the same level they were using 9 months ago. And they get out and they use it the same level, and it's too much. Their body can't handle it anymore, and now they're dead. Or there's fentanyl and everything, and everybody's dying because there's fentanyl and everything. So it's a pretty messed up situation. And our system is very broken. But, I mean, I don't think that's a newsflash. Even if you don't know much about what's going on in the jail, I think we all know that there's brokenness in all of our systems. We've got to figure a better way. So, does anybody have any questions? No questions.
What is being done to provide the resources for those alternative approaches to crime?
Not so much in this state right now. In this state, we're not looking at any new programs. That's why, I'm talking to legislators who are like, well, we don't really have money for that. Or, I mean, if you have a mother in jail, I had this conversation with Tyler Siros, whatever is like, how you ever say it. If you have a mother in jail and their kids in DCF custody and foster care, that worker is supposed to come and see her at least once a month. Unless they're going for termination of rights, she won't see a worker. They don't come on a regular basis. They come after you've been there for 9 months and say, hey, we're going to terminate your rights. Now she's falling apart crying and saying, I already did my parenting classes since I've been here. I did anger management. I'm doing everything I can. The foster parents won't take my calls, so I can't even stay in contact. Blah, blah. And nobody's helping to connect the families and reunify. And as a former foster parent, an adoptive parent, I'm going to tell you, the true goal needs to be reunification, whenever possible. But it's sort of like those women are in jail, so they deserve it, and we're not. Those kids still need their mom and still need to know that their mom didn't turn her back. We need to have a support system. But he just said to me, I know, but I've given up on DCF. DCF is a broken system. That's what a state representative said to me. So this DCF is a broken system, but let's fix it. Let's do something. There are so many women in jail who have children, and their drugs got in the way of them being the mom that God created them to be. But if we're going to help them to get back on track, then we need to provide a support system. And if we can do foster care payments, which it's not much, trust me. So nobody's getting rich on that if they're doing it the way they should be doing it. However, could some of that funding be put into, okay, we're reunifying and we're going to have a visiting resource every day. Somebody's going to come by, make sure that the homework's getting done, the kid's not going off the tracks, and we're going to work on reunification. It's sort of like they're in foster care and now they're not, and a worker may pop in just to see if you're doing something wrong, but nobody's there to do anything to support you. I just feel like we're missing the boat on case management, but we're missing a lot of boats. A lot of boats are getting missed.
The 2 main issues, and my knowledge is old, but no residential drug treatment in Brevard County at all. You have to go out of county to get.
We got a couple
drug
things right now in Titusville, but one of them used to be a pretty good program, and it's gone down the tubes. Walkabout used to be a pretty good program, and now it's more like a halfway house. Liberty Lodge is in Titusville, and that's modeled on the Dunklin program. There's nothing for women in the whole county. Not one. There's not a shelter for women. There's a domestic violence shelter on Peachtree Street, but it doesn't really, like, my people coming out of jail have nowhere to go, but they can't go back to where they were because it would be abusive, or it would be a trap house where there's drugs, but there's not any program. There's no place to go.
Mental health is Circles of Care, which 72-hour Baker Act, and
If that.
they drug you and release you. There's no real evaluation at all.
So our mental health in this county is bad. We have Circles of Care now. They have Palm Point in Titusville, but it's very similar programs. I don't see any improvement in what we got going on. So, and it's a lot of it's funding based, but it's been our half hour is up, I think, and I feel like you guys get it. I know I'm talking to people who have a heart for caring about other people, but that's the facts. Nobody cares about the ministry I do except Christians, because Jesus said, I was in prison and you visited me. Other people are like, yeah, they made their bed, they can lay in it, they deserve what they got. But when I was holding Cyril's hand while his daughter was dying, did he deserve to not be able to be there himself? I mean, I guess, but somebody needed to be there, and it was me that day. So anyway, thank you for listening to my short little instruction or informative time. But I'm grateful for this opportunity. Thanks. Yay. You missed the video.